and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. Now, the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has appointed an Indian origin Canadian to his new cabinet. This includes Maninder Sindhu, Anita Anand, Randeep Sarai and Ruby Sahurta. Amongst these, the second name stands out in particular. Anita Anand has become Canada's new foreign minister. Anita Anand is the first Indian origin and Hindu foreign minister of Canada. She has taken her oath on the Bhagavad Gita yesterday. She replaces Melanie Joly at a time when Canada's relationship with India remains at its lowest ebb, following a series of diplomatic crises under former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Anita Anand had earlier held the defence portfolio under the Trudeau government. In that role, she led Canada's efforts to provide aid for Ukraine and took initiatives to fight sexual misconduct and bring about cultural change in the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, as Carney vows to rebuild Canada's ties with India, Anita has a challenging task ahead of her. Will she be able to undo Trudeau's damage on the diplomatic front between India and Canada bilateral relationship? Remains to be seen. Ambassador Suresh Goyal is on the telecast with me. Ambassador Goyal, what do you make of this new appointment that has been made by Mark Carney for picking Anita Anand as the new foreign minister of Canada?
I would call it interesting because I find that all over the world, not just in Canada, but look at the USA, the number of Indians, when I say Indians, I mean Indian origin people who have been given high-level positions in the Trump cabinet. Kash Patel, who took oath Gita and who greeted Hare Krishna when he came to the White House. So there is a great number of Indians who are now taking important positions in governments in different countries. But Megha, I want to say something very carefully here. The point is that all the people of the Indian origin who are in the governments, particularly in Canada, because we have had this rough past of the Trudeau cabinet when Indian society was completely downtrodden, trodden under their feet, and without even so much of as a kind of a thought for what that India is the fifth largest economy at that time. No, but one thing I would say, what we can expect from people of the Indian origin in these positions, to have a greater sensitivity, to have a greater understanding of what our concerns are, but to have this translate into actual pro-India policies is a different matter altogether. We will need to really wait for what position does Carney take on India. Carney has had to fight his own battles vis-a-vis the USA. Please remember that he has a lot of difficult decisions to take as the time goes by. So we must wait and see the positions he takes on Canada, on India. So far, I've yet to see anything of great substance from him, as far as we are concerned. Even during the recent India-Pak skirmish war, whatever you want to call it, I don't remember any word from Canada, not with the exception of the word of understanding and sympathies for India about what happened in Vietnam. Therefore, my suggestion, very strong suggestion, let us wait and see, and let us not be persuaded by the fact simply because they are persons of Indian origin and because she has taken oath on Gita. Those are personal matters altogether.
Yes. Yes, Gautam Mukherjee, again coming back to you. This is not the first time that there has been an important portfolio that has been given to Anita Anand. She has worked under the defence portfolio. She was the transport minister. But more importantly, she has been brought back from political hibernation, so it seems, because she had decided that she's going to focus on academics. She's not going to come back to active politics. And suddenly a decision being made by Mark Carney to put her at the front and center. A foreign minister has a grand role to play. Whether she is going to be dealing with America or the United Kingdom, and more particularly about India. The situation is known across the globe. India and Canada ties at its lowest ebb at this time. Do you think this is an indication that Mark Carney is going to be different than his predecessor in assessing his bilateral ties with India?
Yes, Megha, I definitely think that the appointment of Anita Anand as foreign minister will be beneficial to India Canada uh, ties and the relationship in general. Anita Anand is highly experienced, as you pointed out. She wanted to be prime minister herself, and then when that was not possible, she was going to return to academia. She's taught at Yale. She taught at two colleges in Canada as well. She's both a political scientist and a lawyer. She is highly experienced and quite likely to move away from the Trudeau era. Joly was, doubly hostile to India based on the cue given to her by Trudeau. Carney definitely wants to put that behind him, and hiring Anita Anand to this top spot is, I think, most welcome. Having said that, the real um, challenge is not so much India as mending the relationship with the United States. Canada is highly indebted to the United States and is often taunted by the president. President Trump keeps calling it the 51st state. And when Carney said in his recent meeting with Trump that, look, that was not possible, Trump said, never say never. So this is an ongoing situation in which for Canada to develop enough of a salience with the United States and bring things back on track in a nationalist manner is going to be very important.
Absolutely,
Megha.
absolutely. Patrick, coming to you, and let's try to understand what are these big challenges that Anita Anand will have to fight in being able to bring together some semblance of normalcy between Canada and India. We have seen, years of strife, which have the relationship has deteriorated, particularly in the last few months. Do you think Mark Carney is a leader who understands the importance of India in the geopolitical and geostrategic arena, and particularly, more importantly, on the trade front? India has signed a free trade agreement with United Kingdom. Just very recently, there is going to be a bilateral trade agreement that is going to be signed between India and US. How important does India become? Is it the center stage position that it will take when it comes to India and Canada trade relationship?
Well, Megha, it's not just trade, it's a multiple of issues. First and foremost, it depends upon what is the stand of Canada on the issue of secessionist elements who are based in Canada and are trying to create problems in India. What will be the stand of Canada in terms of giving political asylum to such elements who have extremely negative law and order, negative crime report or character report in India? There has been elements who have done all kinds of nefarious activities in India and then have sought political asylum and have got it in Canada, and then they do anti-India activities from the Canadian shores. That is a reality. Even for trade to happen, you need to respect each other's sovereignty. If you don't respect each other's sovereignty, if you have such Khalistani elements going around, with extremely obnoxious portraits, eulogizing terrorists who actually assassinated our former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, and if it is allowed, then you can't expect trade to go on normally. This is a different India today, and we have to see how much leverage the new dispensation would have on those all kinds of wrong elements. Let me tell one thing. Mike Carney belongs to the same political party. He may be probably 20% different, or there can be a 30% difference with Trudeau, but the fundamentals have not changed. Fundamentals will not change. If the fundamentals don't change, then merely changing the color of the skin is not going to matter. I think Anita Anand, for all her, I do respect her, and in spite of her best intentions, there are limitations, and we should also not expect too much from her just because she is of Indian origin and she is a Hindu, because she, at the end of the day, has taken oath of Canadian Constitution. So whatever is the policy of the government of Canada, she will have to abide by that. Now, I think India is not desperate. I don't think India is desperate for a trade deal with Canada. It's up to them to decide whether they want, but they have to take care of concerns of India. The concerns are not just terrorism. The concerns are also about India's issues related to its security as architecture beyond Khalistan problem. Gautamji mentioned rightly that what was the stand of Canada when this Pahalgam terror incident happened. As it is, I have very little expectation from the G7 countries. Most of them actually support Pakistan, because they consider Pakistan as a manageable chaos agent. They want to do all kinds of things to keep India under control. That is what their policy is, and I don't have too much expectations. So there is a limitation of how much we should expect. My last statement, Megha,
Yeah, quickly,
have you seen any of those top CEOs of Indian origin who are based in United States saying something about the incident of terror or India's Operation Sindoor? We actually expect too much from them. You can say that no, they are CEOs of big organizations, they have their own limitations. Similarly, this person would also have our own limitations. So our expectations should be, we should not expect much. And I don't think we are waiting for her to do any wonder either. Back to you.
Sanjeev, let's hear it from you. And talking about trade, we see a number of provinces, especially Ontario and Saskatchewan, that have continued to build a strong association with India when it comes to business, economics. Do you think the appointment of Anita Anand is going to help create a more positive environment? I mean, it has to be said. I mean, even if we may discount the fact that, listen, we should be very, just because she is a Hindu by origin, that does not mean that she is going to have a pro-India policy. But the fact that Mark Carney has gone ahead and appointed her definitely makes a statement.
Well, Megha, in my assessment, Mark Carney, as a leader of Canada, as a Prime Minister of Canada, he appears much wiser than Justin Trudeau. That is for sure. And he has several challenges at this point of time to deal with. And the biggest challenge he's facing, his government is facing, the entire Canada is facing, rather, from the biggest neighbor, the United States of America. And the way Donald Trump has treated the United States, Canada, calling it a 51st state of the United States of America, and having a wishful thinking that someday it will become a reality. And that has severely challenged the entire establishment of Canada. And it has deeply impacted the result of Canada. If you look at the opinion poll surveys a few months back, 6 months back, Poilievre, the Conservative Party, was doing so well. But Conservative Party could not realize that what kind of negative impact Donald Trump has made on the various conservative policies which the Poilievre was attempting to pursue. And he could not distance himself from those conservative image what he was projecting, because it was appearing as very much similar to the Donald Trump and his policies. And that is why people yet again chose this Liberal Party. But as I said, that Mark Carney, he has been an economist. He was the governor of Bank of England, Bank of Canada, and he's facing an enormous challenge from United States of America, rather existential challenge he's facing at this point of time. So when Canada is attempting to, reorient and re-emerge as a strong nation, I think it will be wiser for Canada to have a good relationship with the biggest democracy on the planet, that is India.
Okay.
And if he goes ahead with this approach, that if he improves his ties with India, it will save their existence also, and also it will be economically beneficial, because we have had a very robust trade relationship till this kind of Trudeau and his entire baseless allegation came up, and they disrupted everything.
I will mention that. And Ambassador Goyal, I was having this conversation with one of the officials who has been reappointed and brought back to India. He is a director, trade director from Saskatchewan, and there is considerable amount of trade that happens. There are a number of agricultural goods that are brought into India from Canada, from the province of Saskatchewan, and something which is very, very true for the Ontario province as well. So, and Canada is a huge country. And therefore, while there is a massive impact in terms of the deteriorating ties between India and Canada on trade between both countries, these regions continue to prosper in terms of the trade that has not been stopped judiciously, cautiously by trade ministers of India and of the provinces that I just mentioned about. But we cannot not discuss about the Khalistani issue. Do you think now that the National Democratic Party that was led by Jagmeet Singh, and he has since then stepped down from his position, who at one point of time was an ally of the Liberal Party, which was in government led by Trudeau, that impact, that pressure, that sort of influence that the NDP at one point of time used to exert on the Liberal Party is no longer there. How does this impact India's association with Canada, and particularly in terms of the summons and the red corner notices and the number of dossiers that we issue to Canada to extradite these Khalistani criminals back into India? Do you think that it is going to be positively impactful in India's favor?
Megha, if you read the name of the minister again very carefully, it is Anand, right?
Yes.
She is a Sikhni. She may have taken the oath on Gita, but by name it's quite clear that she is a Punjabi Sikh. All right? That aside, what you are saying would actually assume or would need to consider very carefully the strength of the opinion within Canada, and not just Trudeau really. Strength of opinion in Canada on sympathy to the Sikh separatism or the Sikh extremism, whatever you want to call it. I have been to Canada once or twice, not very often. I have not worked over there, but even then, the Punjabis I met, the Sikhs I met, immigrant Sikhs in Toronto as well as in Montreal, they didn't have any great love for India, to tell you the truth. Therefore, my sense is that, and I hope I'm completely wrong on this, but my sense was that the feeling for a Sikh separatism, Nida type Sikh separatism, was not just limited to Nida, but there was a large part of Sikh community there which had the same feeling. Why do you forget that a lot of money from the Sikh community in Canada does go to the Sikhs in Punjab? Sorry, they have the relations together. Therefore, as far as the Sikh problem is concerned, the separatism is concerned, extremism is concerned, I think we should not just go by the fact that yes, there is an Indian community minister. Fine, there is. So let us see how she behaves. Let us see what she says. I don't think I have seen any kind of reaction or any kind of a statement from her on the issue. I have not. So she's a Canadian.
Yeah.
She's a Canadian of Punjabi origin, Indian origin. Let us see how she does it. Trade, as far as the trade is concerned, there are lots of contradictions again, what Indian priorities are and what Indian focus is and what the Canadian focus is. Again, the agriculture comes in the way. So we will have to again wait for the negotiations to begin. Again, in terms of beginning even the negotiations on the FTA, I don't see any great hurry from either Canada or from India to finalize a trade pact. So let us wait. Let us not be in a rush, and then we will know how things pan out.
Okay, all right. Of course, that is going to be eagerly anticipated how the foreign policy is going to build under the leadership of Anita Anand. Gautam, quickly a response from you now. Here it is. It has been months together since there has been any sort of re-establishment of bilateral ties between India and Canada. Do you think there are going to be urgent steps that Mark Carney must have directed to his foreign minister in terms of improving the relationship, or is this something that is quote unquote wishful thinking on India's end?
Well, I definitely feel that there will be an improvement in relationships. Carney is a banker by profession. He has had a distinguished career. He's never been in politics before. He's not hidebound as his predecessor and indeed his father was in terms of his political attitudes, particularly towards Khalistani movement and so on. Anand certainly, I think, is more inclined to be centrist. Like, one of the reasons while the Liberal Party won is that it isn't left of center as much as centrist now, which stole a lot of Poilievre and the Conservative Party's thunder. India has no reason to be hostile to Canada. It's always enjoyed a good relationship with them. The Indian community in Canada, besides the Sikhs, and indeed besides perhaps 5 to 10% of the Sikhs who are inclined towards the Khalistani movement, have been feeling neglected. And I think one of the reasons why Carney persuaded Anita to come back from the possibility of leaving politics altogether, though she's been in it from 2019, is to assuage those sentiments and to direct some of Canada's attention to its Indian community. Megha.
Patrick, quickly coming to you now. Here on the global scale, and we saw, and we already mentioned that her predecessor has been vicious in her attacks against India. Again, do you think a decision was consciously made over here by Carney to remove Jolie and put Anita Anand in her position? The fact that she, a strong player wanting to become Prime Minister, was in contention, lost that vote within the Liberal Party, decided to let go of politics and has been brought back. So there must have been some persuasion, some sort of, heavy lifting that Carney must have asked of her to have persuaded her to be in the position.
Megha, I'm sure even within Canada there is an intent to improve relationship, but whether they want to improve relationship by maintaining status quo in other aspects, or they want to genuinely take into account the concerns of India, that is the core issue that has to be addressed. Secondly, I think somewhere I am not trying to disregard that there is a genuine interest to improve or intent to improve, but at the same time, I think in West, to the extent my understanding of West is, they often feel that symbolism is something that makes Indians too emotional. So please don't forget the symbolism of it, that we have a person of Indian origin now as foreign minister. I'm very sure that the intent of Anita Anand as an individual would be genuine, but whether that is the stated policy of Canadian government, that we have to wait and watch. There is a huge difference between genuinely somebody's interest, individual intent to improve something. Like, for example, Trump keeps on saying a lot of things about he being against radical, Islamic organizations. But the moment he becomes the president, he's the same guy who goes to, shake hands with al-Jolani of Syria, who was a designated terrorist. And then Jolani says in Syria they will set up Trump towers. So when you become part of an establishment, then you have to follow what the establishment tells you to do. Then you are not an individual. This is the same Trump. He knows exactly what has happened in Pakistan. He knows exactly what happened in Pelgam. But the way he was trying to hyphen it, because Americans have a lot to hide in terms of what happened there, in terms of how the beating the F-16s got. So that is why I'm saying we should be very cautious in our optimism. Yes, improvement of relationship is fine. India has never been against improving relations with any particular country. But the only thing is that whether they would take care of the issues that we have raised or not. If it is not, the biggest parameter of seeing whether an improvement has genuinely happened or not would be if Canada is allowed to increase the number of diplomatic staff in their embassies in India or not. If you see there is an increase allowed, that means relationship is improving. If it is not increased, that means there is a status quo, and all this, I think, Government of India presumes to be symbolic. We have to wait and watch what happens.
Okay, Sanjarji, again, are we now looking to pick our battles? Because here we see that during that executive board meeting of the IMF, important nations including Canada and United States of America and Germany have voted in favor of granted at $1 billion bailout package for Pakistan, despite efforts being made by India to push for the halting of that bailout being handed over to Pakistan, which is essentially sponsoring terrorism. On the same side, if we take a look at the kind of actions that have been taken by the Canadian government under Trudeau and his foreign minister Melanie Joly versus what Mark Carney has been challenged with over here. His number one challenge, obviously, right after he was elected as the Prime Minister, his first visit and the only visit has been to the United States of America, meet President Trump in White House. So do you think he is more perturbed and bogged down by the issues that Trump is creating for him than to be able to parallelly focus on India-Canada dispute?
Well, Megha, I think the challenge he got from President Trump, it will certainly, make him make him going into deeper considerations with regard to Canada's relationship with the other countries of the world, like biggest democracy, as I said, that is India. And if they improve our ties, their ties with India, it will be certainly beneficial for orienting their image in the world as a powerful nation and as an independent nation. So I think that is the first challenge and the biggest challenge what Canada is facing at this point of time. Second thing, what has changed in Canada is that Mark Carney doesn't have to appease anymore the New Democratic Party, because he has got his votes one seat behind. It's almost like a majority he has got. So Jagmeet Singh has lost election, and he is a pro-Khalistani element in Canadian establishment. So I think that kind of compulsion was Justin Trudeau was facing, and he was running a minority government. With this liberal government, which has a majority, doesn't have to do anything for New Democratic Party and a pro-Khalistani elements. So that compulsion is gone. That will also make him easier to have a better relationship with India. But yes, certainly for very sure, if they want to have a good relationship with us, then they will have to curb anti-India activities. And that is what from day one India has been telling to Canada. Okay. If they do something, and on that regard, if they hand over several of those terrorists to us, we have given a whole list of them, of those terrorists to Canadian administration. But Justin Trudeau, instead of handing over them to us, he made a baseless allegation. He went on the rooftop and started crying, and all sorts of things went on after that. And that deteriorated India-Canada relationship. So I think Justin Trudeau has done a very big harm to India-Canada relationship. But having said that, let me say that the roots of India-Canada relationship is robust, based on our shared democratic values, interests, opportunities, challenges, and the strong people-to-people.
That's something that's something we have to wait and watch. Clearly, a difficult time that India and Canada have gone through under Trudeau's leadership. But can Carney really make a difference this time around? It looks like feelers are being sent to India after the appointment of his new foreign minister, Hindu by origin, and a strong leader who has actually had experience in handling the defense portfolio, the transport portfolio, was in contention to be the Prime Minister, and now finally the Foreign Minister, a very important, significant post that has been handed over, a big responsibility on her shoulders. Again, the quick question, what is it that persuaded her to come back into active politics after Mark Carney gave her this offer of becoming the Foreign Minister? We'll keep a close eye on all those developments coming out of Canada. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast. And on that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX.